I'm working on right now is my scheduling.
Yeah.
Seeing how much, right now I'm just leaving the weekends. I'm not booking the weekends for landscaping. So that's the time that I'm spent working on finishing up the video series and getting the mailers out there. Got to work on the copy right now and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I think you said you're doing what, like 18 deals the past month?
Yeah, so in August we sold 18, which is a little bit larger for us than normal. Normally we're between like 10 to 15, and we bought 12.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
September has definitely been a little bit slower. We'll touch on that here on this call too, just in terms of what we've seen. We talked about that on the last call. Some stuff has shifted though over the last week. What's up, Chris?
Hey.
We're gonna let everyone funnel in though before we start talking shop in terms of what we're seeing out there.
Okay.
I already know Josh said he couldn't make the call, but we should have a few other folks cruising on in.
Michael will be here.
What's up, Chris?
Michael will be here. He's just on the phone with Apple because his laptop just decided to shit itself. So.
Oh, perfect.
yeah, great. It's great timing. So,
yeah.
But he will be on. He just might be late.
Okay, cool. No worries. Mike, how's everything going with just getting started in the program first few days in there?
It's been good, man. Just going through the modules. Honestly, I've been kind of taking my time. I really, really want to be able to emulate exactly what you're doing on the modules. So as of right now, I am currently on it's module 5, and the video is titled Picking the Market with Me or something like that. And so I'm literally going step by step as to how you're picking you pick your markets in Colorado. And I think I'm going to stay in the state of Florida. I think there's a lot of money to be made here. There's a lot of land. There's a lot of opportunity. And so I'm down to 3 different counties. So I'm just doing the market research the way that you teach it.
Sweet, man. Oh, that's awesome. One thing is interesting to know, and I like the fact that you're just working on one state to start. I know guys in this business that work one county, not even one state, just one county, and they'll do 500, 750,000 a year in profit just from one county. And so if you can find one state or one county that really works for you, you could build a whole business off that. And people have done that in Florida because it's a boom town right now.
Right.
So yeah, it'll ultimately make your whole entire process easier too. Once you start getting familiarized with one market or a few markets, you can start doing what we call vertical integration, which is where like you'll have one title company you work with, one photographer you work with, and you can kind of like integrate all those resources. So
nice. Yep.
Well, cool that you already know that you're going to be going after Florida. Everything from there becomes a lot easier when you know where you're going to work. Hey, Cole, did you get your campaign put together for West Virginia?
I got the data exported. I was waiting on data tree for a second. The trial only had like 100 records you could export, so it took me like a day or so, but I got with them, got it exported. Data's out there. What I think on the actual course, I wish I was further. I think I'm like 35% through it. So I know the next steps are, I got my backpack right here. I finished up a little early today. Just working on that, man. The timing thing is, I know once I actually start getting calls coming in, I'm going to have to like seriously set some time aside, and I'm booked out like over a month and a half. So I think I might drop my mowing route, just focus on landscape and hardscape, like patios and stuff, and just not book anything for the weekends and just make time that way. Because I'm working till like dark usually. It's Virginia here. Maybe it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I got to do estimates and write-ups on the computer. It's like, man, the other day I broke someone's glass window, like with using the weed eater. And it was only a $500 job for a friend. It was just like, hey, we want to sell this house. Let's do a little a few hours in and out. And the window's going to be like, the repair guy, it's like from the 60s. He's like, oh, it might be $2,000 to $4,000. I'm like, geez, I just need to like, put this money towards the other business. So I'm just focusing in on this more. So that's what I'm doing tonight. There's a whole lot of people that will just talk about it and not do it. So I'm not going to tell you how busy I am. I'll just
well, I know you are busy though. You do got a lot on your plate, but I think it's wise to schedule the time. Like once it's on the schedule and you're saying, hey, weekends are going to be dedicated to the land business, it becomes a whole heck of a lot easier to dedicate the time. So that sounds like a plan there. We got Clark Kent joining us today. Rylan, you look like a whole new man. With the fresh cut, man. How
Got
are
a
you?
haircut, lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, you do look more frail. It's that bike ride down the coast, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was rough.
Tell everyone, how long was that bike ride? Oh, I think you might be muted, rather.
Started at 6 a.m. out in Carmel, and then ended up in Slow at, I think it was 3:30.
It's like 120,
Bro, what?
120 miles.
Yeah, 130.
130 mile bike ride.
Like
Dude,
on purpose? Like were you running away
Yeah.
from something? Like you just like
Yeah.
all right.
Dude,
Well,
that is unreal.
oh my god.
That's great time. Like, that's cranking.
Yeah, we were going like at a 19 average probably, so we were hauling.
Wow, man.
I'm actually so confident that I'll never ride a bike 120 miles like in my entire life. Like after my life is over, I can confidently say I will never rode that far. Like total.
Yeah, in total for your whole life. You know, I did a 50-mile ride for the first time ever. I'm not a biker by any means. Last November, actually, it was actually on Thanksgiving. Dude, your butt is just smoked. Like, I know you're probably used to it, but 130 miles must be pretty brutal.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of time in the feet. That is, yeah, a little much. Well, we're going to jump into things just because there's a few other folks that are supposed to be on this call. We've got a few new members that joined over the last week, since you guys were all on the last call Wednesday. One of them being Mike. Mike, if you want to give just a quick little elevator pitch on who you are, where you're at, what you're looking to do with the land business. And what's cool about Mike, he's actually got some relevant experience in the land business. So you can kind of touch on that as well, just to give everyone context.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Mike Lopez. I actually live in Tampa, Florida. So I know I'm a long ways away from Sumner. I'm not sure where everybody else is at, but Tampa, Florida, full-time firefighter. And let's see, I've started the land business literally last year. I was looking back, my first land deal closed September 21st, 2021. So literally a year ago, that's when I closed my first land deal. And since then, I've closed about 12 deals and I made over $100,000, which was news to me too. Initially, when I had my consultation with Sumner, I didn't know that. So it was cool to find that out. But the fact of the matter is, when I'm looking at my account, my bank account, the money's not there. I mean, I have money, but it's just, I'm not really seeing the fruits of the deals that I'm closing. So that's one of the reasons why I joined Sumner. Obviously, another reason is just I want to be able to scale. The number that I guess stood out to me was I want to be able to consistently make $225,000 per year. And I really think that I could do that. I think that's very attainable, especially with the education that he puts out and for the community I'm gonna be in moving forward. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell, and I'm really excited to be here.
Sweet, man. Happy to have you here. It's cool that you're coming in with relevant experience. It's crazy too, because I don't think anyone here has done the assignment side of things. Pretty much everyone here, the deals that we're doing, we're closing on ourselves. But it's cool kind of hearing how you got started in it. And that's what I love about real estate is there's so many ways to skin the cat. There's so many ways to get involved. There's no right or wrong way to do things necessarily. You can still kind of end up at the same finish line. There's a lot of different ways to get there. So like I said before, we have a few other folks that might stream in throughout the call, but we're just going to dive into it regardless. A couple of things, just kind of some housekeeping stuff I want to run you guys through. You guys, let me share my screen here. All right. So you guys should have gotten an invitation for our Slack group, which this is pretty cool. And I just want to run you guys through some kind of basic pieces on the Slack group. So if you guys ever need to direct message me, you can just get in touch with me here. It's probably going to be faster than email in some cases. My email inbox is quickly filling up with all sorts of stuff. So if you guys ever need to get a hold of me, direct message me on here. It's going to be the quickest method. And then if you need to get a hold of myself, or we actually have an admin who's going to help run this with us for the Slack channel. His name's Newman. He actually is the COO over at the Land Pioneer. So he's integrated pretty heavily in the land business. He's been with us for years. He knows the ins and outs in the business. We actually just hired him like an executive assistant that's working underneath him. It's freed up a lot of his time. So he's also going to be doing some kind of general admin work for the group here. So if you guys have any questions, or you need resources, or you need, hey, I can't find X, Y, and Z in the course, you can pop it in there, and then he'll get back to you guys pretty darn quickly. We've got our chatter section. This is just for general chit-chatting, whatever you guys want to talk about. This is the channel to do it. Announcements, this is mainly going to be something that we'll be using for any changes to call times or any updates to the course, anything along those lines. And then we're doing a deal reviews. So a deal review can be done on our weekly call. If you guys want a property reviewed, make sure you post it in this channel here, and we'll go over on the call every single Wednesday. And even if you're not going to make the call, you can still pop it in there. We'll still go through it, and you can guys watch the recording after. And then we've got our opportunities chat. So whether you're looking for funding or you want to team up with someone in the group, you got the opportunity to do so. So you can post any opportunities that you need help with there. Recent wins, I'll be popping in a few wins just from this week in here today to kind of show you guys the format. But I think it's cool to kind of share what's working and focus on some of the good stuff, because we can occasionally get hit with some speed bumps, and it's easy to obsess about them. At least I have the tendency to do that. And so I think just reminding each other of all the good that's going on is beneficial. And then shared resources. So if you guys ever are working in a market and you say, hey, I'm in X, Y, and Z market, I need help with a photographer or a title company or fill in the blank, post it in here, either myself or someone in the group. Odds are we're going to have a resource that you guys can use, and we can share that with you. The other exciting thing is we just locked in some discounted pricing for Rocket Print and Mail. So Rocket Print and Mail is the mail house that we use within our business. We send out, I don't know, probably 150,000, 200,000 letters a year with them. They are, bar none, the cheapest that we found. They're also the most expedient. A lot of these mail houses, they'll kind of drag you through the mud, and it might take 2 or 3 weeks for them to get it printed and get the samples reviewed and then actually mail it out. They're really quick. Typically, we'll send a file over to them. They'll send the merge proof to us in a matter of 48 hours, and then it'll be sent out just in a few days after that. So typically, like in the land investing world or really real estate world, when it comes to direct mail, industry standard is going to be about 55 to 65 cents, just depending on where you go. We've got them down to 52.9, just depending on what package you secure. And this is for a 2-page offer letter. So this is what we use for our blind offer. This is what we use for our range offer as well. If you're going to do like a neutral letter or a postcard, you're going to have different pricing that's not on this list. You'll have a little bit of a discount, but truth be told, doing 2 sheets versus 1 sheet, you're talking a couple pennies in terms of a difference in cost. The bulk of the cost is always going to go to postage. The way it works with Rocket Print and Mail is it's kind of odd. You buy up front. So if you say, hey, I want to buy 60,000, you'll pay 60,000 times 18 cents up front. So this will be your subtotal, and then you'll pay the postage every time you mail out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how you're able to secure the discounted pricing, is that it's an upfront commitment. And that's how they do it, whether you're going through us or you're going through anyone else. That's just kind of their business model. We're actually going to have a landing page, which I don't know if it's up yet. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's not up yet, but it's going to be rocketprint.com/landinvestor, and that's how you guys can access any of these prices. We're putting together a pretty comprehensive resources sheet. So we've been able to secure discounts with a lot of providers, not every provider yet. There's still a few that we're working on, but DataTree, MapRight, Rocket Print and Mail, we're working on a Follow-Up Boss discount. We got a Sign Now discount, which is what we use for sending out contracts, as well as a discount with the flat fee MLS provider that we use. We use brokerlist.com. It looks like we're going to get them down from 100 to 90 per listing, which might not sound like a gargantuan amount, but if you're posting 100 properties a year on the MLS or 50 properties a year, it certainly adds up. So really what we're trying to do here is just take all the tools that we're using, and since we're going to be sending clients to them in bulk, being able to negotiate lower prices. So if you guys are on the fence in terms of waiting to sign up for some of this stuff, I would wait a week or two until we get everything fleshed out, and then we should have that resources sheet shared with you guys. So yeah, that's the lowdown on the housekeeping items. What we'll do with this call is we'll start with Q&A. We're going to kind of go in reverse order. We'll start with Q&A, and I have a few topics that I want to touch on thereafter. So anyone that has questions about the course, reviewing markets, anything you're working on, deals, let's talk about it.
I want to ask you, I wasn't on last week's call, but are you guys still buying like 30 to 50% of market value for that land for retail? Excuse me.
Yeah, it depends where we're talking. So you're always going to see a pretty large variance in terms of the markets that you're working in. That's why I think like the one size fits all advice for people to say, buy land for 30 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. There's so many catch-22s to that and caveats to that. So it's going to be market specific always. And then it's also going to be price point specific. So if I'm buying a $500,000 property, there's no chance that I'm ever going to be buying that for 30 cents on the dollar. We're probably going to be closer to 60 or 70 cents on the dollar. And that's okay. Like our overall ROI is going to be lower, but the actual cash in and cash out is going to be such a huge chunk that it can be worth doing. And if we're in a market where things are moving quickly, we'll do that deal all day long. I would say for us, it's more typical that we're probably at about 50 cents on the dollar. But again, the price points that we're working at are a little more premium. So like most of the properties we're listing are like 50, 75,000, 100,000. Way back in the day when we were doing a lot of like the lower end sub $10,000 properties, and we're buying those for 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. But we were in very, very rural, undesirable markets. And we're also dealing with properties that have almost no intrinsic value, right? But when you're buying a property that's like on the outskirts of a pretty major metropolitan area, there's utilities already there, there's development next to it, that has real intrinsic value. And those properties typically you aren't going to get at a huge discount. We talk about this in the course, but I think it's worth just repeating here. The way we kind of break up this business is if you're going after these more quality type properties, you're going to spend more on the marketing on the front end for acquisitions, but it's going to take less time for the dispositions on the back end because you're buying a quality asset. On the flip side, if you're going after these cheaper, more rural properties that you're buying at 10 cents on the dollar, the acquisitions is really easy because people just want to let those things go all day long. It takes a lot more work to actually sell them because they're just not that desirable. So unfortunately, not a one size fits all answer. A lot of that's going to come down to the market that you're working in, as well as the price point.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I just figured with like stuff going down, I'll do deal review when the time comes and I actually have something, and then talk to the funding people too, since they said they would run it by them as well. I was just wondering if I remember when the whole COVID thing first happened a couple of years ago when I was wholesaling, people were like, "Oh, we're not buying it, 70% ARV minus repairs, we're doing 65, whatever." So I'll just deal by deal, got it, understood.
Yeah, deal by deal. And I think one thing that's worth touching on that too is when it comes to the market shifting, we are being cautious when we're looking at recent comps, right? So if I'm looking at a comp from 3 months ago or 6 months ago, I'm probably going to apply a discount rate to that. So if the property sold at 100 and that was 6 months ago, maybe I'm saying to myself, I think this is going to sell at 80 today. Because that's the only way you really get caught in a sticky situation right now, is it's easier to buy properties. It's just tricky if you're going after old data when the market was at its peak and you're comparing that to now, that's when you can get yourself in a slippery situation. So I would say we're still buying at roughly the same percentage of market value. We're just having to be a little bit more mindful with how we generate our comps. That makes sense?
Something else, Cole, when you're starting to look at markets and like Sumner said, 3 to 6 months back, it's a different market then than it is today. Something I like to do just to judge kind of how active that market still is, although for sale is not a good indicator because you can ask whatever you want for your lot, but there's filters on like Redfin and Zillow for pending sales, and same with land.com, just to see how many active listings are actually pending in that market. So if there are, whatever market it is, there are 10 active listings and there are none pending and they've all been sitting for 50, 60 days, that tells me there's not a lot of demand that there once was 3 to 6 months ago. But if that same, that market had 10 to 15 listings and you click on the pending and they have 5 pending and they're all pretty, price similar, then I know that there's demand there. So it kind of helps you just like gauge interest there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's go through that together real quick. I'm just going to get that pulled up so you can kind of see that in real time, because Chris, this is exactly what I do as well in terms of looking at what's actively under contract. You do have to be careful with some of these like land.com sites, and we're going to use LandWatch in this case. Sometimes people will keep these things pending or under contract, quote unquote, when they've already sold. Like, people don't always update this stuff. But we're looking at Los Angeles County, Colorado. 580 sold. Typically that goes back. We don't know for certain. It's kind of a black box, but we think it goes back about 2 years. You can see there's 137 available and there's 11 under contract. Let's go compare that to like a Polk County, Texas. Similar size county, a little more activity out here though, just there's a little more demand. So you can see 185 available, 33 under contract. So that actual ratio out here, you can see there's more activity, like real time, just because there's more that's actually under contract. And then the total amount sold is roughly the same. One of the other tools that we'll use too is we'll just use Zillow, which I hate, but I'll show you how we do that in real time just to see what's going on out there. So if we go Zillow, we'll pull up the newest listings out here. Typically, you're going to want to let them season for a day. If they've been up for a few hours, they're not going to have good metrics to look at, but we'll just pull really any one of these and see what it's getting in terms of views and saves. So 4 days, 58 views, 4 saves, really not that fantastic. Typically, what we want to see is about 50 to 100 views per day and about a 10% save ratio. So 100 views should be about 10 saves. And that's going to determine a market where there's actually like a lot of activity going on. It's not a hard, fast rule of thumb. There's always going to be exceptions to it. But that's another way I figure out if there's still activity, there's still demand in that market, is by using Zillow as well as LandWatch. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else got any additional questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you know, unless someone else wants to go after me, but I figure since I'm here, man hours per one deal, like since you did almost 18 last month, I'm trying to figure out if I'm time blocking, if I'm trying to come up with a time frame of how much time should I set aside for this? Like if I need to replace my income, like obviously I remember in here the firefighter was saying, 224,000 or something like that per year. Like I'm busting my ass, like running this company. Most of the time it's like I'm solo. So far in the year, we've grossed like a little bit over 100,000, 50% profit margins since I don't have a big crew. But I mean, what I'm actually taking home of that is like, nothing crazy. So I'm trying to figure out like, hey, for one deal, or if I'm going to make 10 to 20,000 a month in profit, like, is that 2 deals? Is that 1 deal? Just rough numbers on how much time you guys spend, with your whole team. Like maybe one person's doing 2 hours on dispo, 1 hour in acquisition, mailing costs, stuff like that. Like how much would you spend time-wise on one deal, and how much would that bring you in profit?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll go first, and then anyone that wants to chime in on it, because I'm sure we'll have all slightly different answers. The second question can't really be answered in terms of how much you profit, right? Because it's going to depend on what kind of deal you're going after. The good news is, though, a small deal and a big deal take really about the same amount of time. In fact, I always joke that I think a bigger deal takes less time, because typically you have more sophisticated sellers, a more sophisticated buyer. You can use title companies. And so usually those deals are actually a lot more smooth to move through. With the smaller deals, there can be a lot more headache. You're dealing with people that don't really know what they're doing. Typically, you can't use a title company. You got to use a notary to close the deal. So those properties can take a little bit more. And ultimately, of course, your profit's going to be lower on a small deal. The difference here is like your ROI might be the same or even potentially bigger on a lower deal from like a percentage standpoint. But if we're talking about like profit per hour, that's going to just be dictated in terms of what kinds of properties you're going after. The nice thing is that you have total control over that, right? You could just say, hey, I'm going after properties that are only going to net me $50K per deal or $20K per deal. I know people in this business that do 1 or 2 deals a month, but each deal nets them north of $50K. And like that, they just won't turn anything away that doesn't meet that requirement, because to them, it's not worth their time. So it's a decision that you have to make on that front. I'll give you just like, it's not something that I track in my business in terms of a KPI of figuring out how much time goes into every deal, because it is going to vary wildly. From like a conservative standpoint, well, let's just break down the math together. So we've got 8 team members on my team, and everyone works full-time 40 hours per week. So it's 320 man hours per week times 4, 1,280 hours worked per month. We did 18 deals, 71. Yeah. So, I mean, in my experience, a lot of first off, like those 8 people aren't direct contributors. So they're not all directly contributing to acquisitions or dispositions. They do facilitate somewhere in the total journey, but they're not like directly involved. So potentially that math is going to be misleading. In my experience, when I was running the business solo, it's about, I would say, 4 to 5 hours for a deal from start to finish, everything involved. Signing paperwork, talking to buyers, talking to sellers, getting the photos, like the whole orchestration takes, I would say, about 5 hours from a full turnaround. So that starts from when the lead comes in to negotiating the lead, getting the document signed, all the way to selling the property. You guys can let me know if that sounds realistic to what you're seeing in your business. Hard for me to quantify, though, exactly how much time my team is spending, just because I don't track that.
Yeah, I'll go because I mean, I don't know, I have like a year, I guess, a little bit more for. So the reason why I got into this business initially is because my time for me is really valuable. I have a daughter, year and a half, she's right here, and I want to spend like as much time with her as I possibly can. Didn't want to do anything else. So for me, it was like, how can I just not be, involved with the 9 to 5 and save as many hours during the day just to hang out with my family. So I run, very different business than Sumner. I mean, it's like a fraction of what he does, but I probably on a busy day will work 3 hours. And it's been a successful business for the first, year and couple months. And it has gotten more efficient. So when I first started, the first 6 months, like those 3 hours probably took me 6 hours. I wasn't very good at whatever I was doing. But as you become more efficient and you understand the ins and outs of whatever it is, it cuts down your time by 90% for some things. So what takes you a long time for the first 3 to 4 months, just know you streamline your process really quickly. And then by the end of it, again, those tasks to get a deal done takes you a tenth of the time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to look at this too, because one of the things that you're probably experiencing, Chris, and I've seen people go through this in this business, is that you can dictate how much yield you want to generate from your marketing. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you go and send out 5,000 letters. Naturally, you're going to get 2 or 3 just lay down leads. I mean, that's like the lowest hanging fruit. You do no work for them. They're great deals. They just come your way. Within that 5,000 mailer campaign, there's probably an additional 2 to 3 deals that you could go and grind out if you really wanted to. And so I see people really just the 80-20 around, like they just have come to them. It dictates most of their results. And they don't really dig any further to unmine those additional deals and have a higher yield from their mailing campaigns. And so for them, they're willing to have ultimately a lower return on their marketing dollars because they want to take the easy route and they want to have a nice balance of their time, or maybe they've got other engagements outside of this, like a business or a full-time job, and so that works for them, right? So I think that's another thing that you have to determine is, like, how much do you really want to push it, because that's going to dictate how much time is needed. Like Chris said, and I think Chris is kind of like the poster child for this, like, you can get away probably working an hour to 4 hours a day and have a business that easily spits out, I would say, 20 to 50K a month in profit. It'll take you a year, maybe a year and a half to get there. It's totally attainable. Now, if you want a business that's like doing multiple 6 figures a month, you're going to have to grind a little bit more and push a little bit more. And you're also going to have to be a little bit more mindful of what kinds of properties you're going after. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see newer folks making when they're getting involved in this business is they just do any kind of deal that comes across their desk. All things being equal, every deal is going to take pretty much the same amount of time. In my experience, 4 to 5 hours full cycle makes sense. That's just off the top of my head. I don't have that number tracked. And so if you really want to be as conservative with how you're spending your time, being very, very precise and conscious in terms of what deals you're marketing for and what deals you're willing to do is going to probably play a bigger result in the time per hour that you're making than anything else, honestly. Yeah.
That's huge. I was taking notes. My phone cut out for a second. I had to go on my.
I saw you hopping in and out. I hope you heard all of that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got that. But yeah, no, that's 1 to 4 hours a day. If that would be profiting me more than I would probably take home, like cash in the bank, probably for an entire year. And I'm over here, doing everything in the business. Right. So I mean, that's wild. Yeah, that gets me even more excited and ready to get this moving.
Yeah. Well, the really exciting thing too is, like, it's beautiful when you're at that point where Chris is at, but there is another level if you want to ascend to that point. And to me, it's even more beautiful when you have a team. When you have a team in place and then they're spitting out those numbers, I mean, bar none, there's never been a better investment that I've ever made than investing into a team. Doesn't matter about what property I've bought, doesn't matter about what kind of direct mail campaign I did. Like, building a team has been far and away the best return on my investment. And that's a really cool feeling too, when it's like, hey, I haven't worked today, and yet we still did 25K in profit or 30K in profit that day. That's a really cool feeling. And that's attainable to anyone. But ultimately, it's a choice. Not everyone really wants to get there, because there's a lot of speed bumps that come along that path, and it takes time. But that's also a possibility as well. So hope that gets you inspired.
Oh, absolutely.
And like right now, I'm under no illusion that like what I've built so far is a business. It's really just like a high paying job, because if I stop tomorrow, so does all my income. Sumner has built a business. If he stops tomorrow, like he just said, his income doesn't stop. So that's the next stage. And like he was just saying, but yeah, I'm under no illusion that what I've built is a self-sustaining business. It will be one day, but right now it's just a high paying job.
For sure. And that's how it starts. I mean, I spent literally, I would say, the first 2 years doing that. And that's okay. I think the beauty of that too, though, is you become so intimately familiar with every single nook and cranny of this business that when you go to hire, you know exactly how to actually position that person to be successful in that role. I do see a lot of folks getting started in this business, and it's like they're in for 12 months or 16 months and they already have a team of 5, and they're like, no, it sounds great on paper, but they don't really know every single aspect of this business. So I think sometimes taking that portion slow can actually pay dividends in the long run. So yeah. Cool. Anyone else got any cues? Good to see you, Mike. I heard your phone hit the crapper. Or no, was it your computer that crapped out?
Yeah, I bought this laptop a month ago, and this is like the 10th time I've had to chat with Apple support. So I think I might have to bring it in and get it replaced.
Oh no. Is it a MacBook Pro?
Yeah, it is. I kind of cheaped out on it, and I bought like a smaller processor, and I'm regretting it already.
My God. Never.
You know me.
Buy the Mac.
Yeah.
It's like a difference of like $400, dude. You see one of the photographers like yesterday, you didn't even buy the fucking land, man.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Happy to have you on here. Anyone else have any additional questions they want to touch on?
I had a question as far as like macro real estate analysis and like analyzing trends.
Oh, here we go. I love it.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
So we have like Zillow and everything, but that's all manual checking of everything. Like ideally I want this chart that I can like move around in Excel or Google and have like an automatic updating system that analyzes everything on the market, everything that's sold in the last 3 months, 6 months, year, and then like be able to compare that like on a monthly basis. Do you guys use any kind of software or tool that does that? If not, I'll probably just build some kind of chart.
Yeah.
Is that
So there that does exist for other real estate assets, especially like commercial real estate. There's some pretty comprehensive tools that pretty much do just that. Actually, funnily enough, a lot of them are owned by CoStar, same company that owns land.com. For land, there's nothing that I know of, but this is something I've been thinking a good bit about recently. It's actually a really easy thing. I mean, you and I might skin the cat a little bit differently. Maybe you're going to build some nice piece of software that plugs into Zillow's API and they speak together. I was just going to hire someone to manually do it in Excel on a monthly basis. And I would just do it market by market. It's like, hey, these are my 10 bread and butter markets that I want to give like a full health report every month on what's going on out there. That would be fantastic. And I honestly think it'd be pretty easy to create. It'd probably cost $500 a month, maybe less, to have someone overseas just continuously updating that. So yeah, I'm on the same page with you. There might even be an opportunity for us to kind of combine our noggins on that, and maybe share a resource, like share the same person that builds that out. There's a ton of value around that. There's probably a potential to even sell that report to other people if you wanted to or something, right? I don't even know if there is a price that would make it worth it, though, because honestly, that information is way more profitable for you to hold on to than to give to someone else. But yeah, when it comes to land, I mean, part of the reason there's such an opportunity in land is the data is so fragmented. There's no central organization of anything. So no tool like that, to my knowledge, exists. Data tree, there's latency on data tree, but you can do like a sold comp report for an area over the last 30 days or 60 days or whatever, just to see what's moving. And that'll give you like just kind of like a broad number. I think it might even break down a price per acre. It's not really a tool I use very often, but in terms of seeing like what's actively listed, I don't think they give you anything on that, as well as like views and saves and all that jazz. Yeah. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about. I mean, so we're looking in our business, I think the next hire that we're looking to make is like a data analyst. So someone that will be going through and finding new markets, pulling data, pricing mailers, doing that whole portion. Because that's the last area that I'm still stuck on in my business. In my opinion, it's the highest value area in the business. So it's like probably the last thing you should let go. But I do know it's something that I do need to let go of. And so I'm thinking I might just combine that all into one, or I might hire a freelancer just to start doing that now. So yeah, I'll let you know if I cook up anything on that, though. I think it's a good idea.
Sounds good.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? You got any questions for me over there?
No, I don't right now. Little update. I think the last week we spoke, I put 4 properties under contract. All 4 cannot close. They all 4 have to go through probate. So
Dude, you're kidding me.
Yeah, that sucks. It's the first time. I mean, I've had like one-offs every now and then of like don't close on the buy side, but 4 in a row they have to go through probate. That hurts a little bit. So
that does hurt. That is, what are the odds?
I know. So
are
now
you not doing any preliminary due diligence?
What's that?
What are you not doing? Like any preliminary due diligence?
I am, but like the sellers will always tell you like their side of the story as to why it'll work out. So I can only do so much. The title, I mean, this is why we use title companies. So they'll always give me like a glimmer of hope, and then I'll send it off. But actually, a kind of interesting note, I guess, one of the 4, all 4 got sent to the same title company I use in Arizona. One of them seemed like it still could work out. And I think that my title company is just like so by the books, where I think a different title company might have actually insured the title on it and closed on it. So I sent that property to another title company, and I do think they will close on it. So I don't know, something to think about. Like if you send it off to title company, if it is a big deal and it really has to go through probate, then yeah, you're just not going to close on it. But if there's like maybe a loophole that another title company like might miss, if they're going to insure the chain of title, that's all I really care about. So hopefully the title company will close on it.
Yeah, it seems. Usually probate's so black and white in my experience. I'd be curious to know what their like workaround will be. I do agree though, there is a huge variance in terms of how far some title companies will go to rectify things versus other ones just like, nope, too confusing, we're not going to deal with it.
It's a lot of like wording, like in the past deed, like if they don't have the words like rights of survivorship in the vesting, then they might like not insure it unless they see the probate there, where another title company might see, well, they held it joint tenants, even if they don't have like the rights of survivorship. I don't really know, but I think like some title companies might just be like a little bit more by the book. So hopefully they'll close this one.
Okay.
So say there was like 3 owners and 2 died. What's the wording needed for the only alive owner to have 100% ownership? Like
I think that like they legally or technically need to own it with rights of survivorship. But in this particular case, it was a husband and wife. I'm not exactly sure. Like if it was 4 owners and there's only 1 left, they need to have rights of survivorship. But if it's a husband and wife, and maybe it's like technically community property after a while, I'm not really sure how that all works out. But I think title companies might like read that differently, than another.
It differs from state to state as well.
It does.
Totally. Like Nevada's a community property, so like if a wife dies that wasn't on title, she still has to probate her interest, even if she was on title. It definitely differs, but I do think it differs by title company as well.
For sure.
Yeah, dude, that's tough, man. Sorry to hear that 4 in a row.
No, it's okay. Just got to get back on the grind of mail, and it'll make up for it.
Hey, Mike, do you plan on moving forward with those, or is that just going to be a delay, or are you just?
So yeah, actually, it's interesting. So there's 4 of them. One of them I sent off to another title company. I think that I'll just close on it regularly. One of them, she was the only child. She was an only child after her parents passed. So she did reach out to a paralegal who said it should be pretty simple to rectify. So I did keep that escrow open, and hopefully I should close on it in Well, I actually just signed an extension for 90 days. So hopefully I close on that one. I just got an email today that the owner is going to reach out to another paralegal to get their advice. And then one of them, I'm just not going to close on it. So yeah, it doesn't hurt. Like it's no extra cost on me, right? Like if they want to reach out to a paralegal and get their advice on how to rectify it, they're more than welcome to. It's just kind of sit on my back burner. So yeah, 3, I'm still technically working on closing. We'll see what happens, but
cool. And you can always renegotiate the price, like when it comes time to close, if they actually rectify whatever it is. The market could change either in your benefit. So it's happened, in the past where I was 2.5 months late on closing on something we should have because he needed to go through probate. Well, the market kind of had taken off for those 2.5 months. And by the time it was set to close, what I was going to list it for was actually like 20,000 less than I actually did. So it could and then it happened in the reverse as well, where this last, I just closed on something about a month ago. It's obviously cooled down from 3 months ago when I put it under contract and had to renegotiate there. But it does give you the flexibility.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I made adjustments. The bummer about these is 3 out of the 4 I had already pre-sold.
Oh,
yeah. So that's like the worst part about it. So 2 out of those 3, I'm still working on closing. One of them is the guy who's not going to seek a paralegal, but that does hurt a little bit.
Did you already collect cash for a holding deposit or a down payment?
No, I didn't collect cash, but we had all agreed on a price and they were waiting on me to send the purchase agreement. I was holding off sending it because I knew they were having title issues. I wanted to make sure before I did, but all 3 of them had agreed on a price. So
God, that's tough, man.
That hurts, but that's all right.
You know what? Though it's ebbs and flows, man. I'd like when it dips, it also rips, and so you're probably due for a pretty nice rip here.
Yeah.
Speaking of rips, so as you guys probably remember, last week we were talking about how big month for us in August, and we came into September, and it was like everything just came to a screeching halt, both in terms of sales, in terms of acquisitions, and so things seem to have picked up again. Really on Monday. Like I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing, but this week has been pretty hot for us. We actually, I don't know if you guys remember the not Polk County, it's Tyler County, Texas, 49-acre property. I told you guys on Wednesday, I said, I think we're going to sell this one. Sure enough, on Friday, we sold that property. I think it's it might be our biggest sale of the year. I don't know. We bought it for 80 and sold it for 160. It's either our biggest sales price or biggest profit per deal, one of those two. So about an $80,000 profit on that one. That one took us 2 weeks to turn around, which is pretty awesome. Sold through the MLS. We got a lady that came in, it was listed at 169. She offered 160. We said, you know what, let's take it. And that pretty much made our month. And then we had a few other good ones come in really since Monday through today. So yesterday we sold one out in Washington that we bought for 24, sold that one for 49.9. And then we sold a property out in LA County. I think this one was not very good. We bought it for 13, sold it for 26. It's like kind of like a base hit. And then we had, I think, our worst purchase to date for 2022 was a property out in Wyoming. Probably the last time that I buy property in this part of Wyoming. There's some really special spots within Wyoming. It's tough. It's a non-disclosure state. So when you're doing comps, you can't really tell what things are selling for. You got to do a lot of guesstimating. We bought this 40-acre for $10K. It had road frontage off of a major interstate, and we sold it for $15. It took us forever to sell. We actually sold it to another land investor. We sold it to a company called Discount Lots. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but yeah, so that one, we just needed to get it out of our inventory. And that's one of the things that we're looking at doing right now. There's probably 4 or 5 properties that we've had for like 6 months now that are in the inventory that we're looking just to clear and get rid of. So starting to move some of those things out, because if things do turn and things do slow down, I definitely don't want to be holding on to those things, right? All those, we're still walking away with a profit. It's obviously pretty minimal. And when we fire sale properties like that, like we bought it for 10, we listed at 15, we get a ton of leads that reach out because it's cheapest in the market by a ton. One of the little caveats is anytime someone comes in and does want to buy it, we just make them cover closing costs. So on that one, we'll net pretty much 5K on it. And then acquisitions have still been kind of soft. We've got a potential deal out in Colorado, which would be pretty big for us. It's 4 adjacent 40-acre properties. Each 40-acre trades for about 70,000 or so, maybe 65, 70,000. Currently, we had a verbal at 20,000 per property, so 80,000 for all 4 of them. we'll see if that goes through. That might be optimistic, but we have a verbal on it. So I'm curious what you guys are seeing though, if things have been picking up or if it's just me.
I'll start by September. I had the opposite of you. August was okay. Everything came to a screaming halt for me in August. September, from the beginning of the month, kind of ripped and really hasn't slowed down, which is nice. So moved a lot of stuff, put a lot of stuff under contract. My best deal to date, I just put under contract. It was I was all in for 45, and we're under contract to sell it at 110.
Nice.
Which is
awesome.
By far, our best one, which is sweet. So yeah, this September has been good. Whether they close this month or beginning of October, be a good couple months.
How many properties have you sold this month? Just kind of off the top of your head.
Sold as in actually officially closed or put under contract?
No, I put under contract. Put under contract.
I have put 9, 10.
Wow.
Right on.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's
Thanks.
really good, dude. That's the biggest month to date for the year.
In terms of both net and properties under contract. Yeah.
Dude, that's great, man. Wow. Yeah, it's funny that I'm having the inverse, but sometimes like there's such a latency with what we do in this business. Like I always say, we're harvesting the seeds that we planted 90 days ago, 120 days ago. Could be the case for you. I thought this was more of like a kind of a broader thing going on with everyone, but it is really encouraging to hear that someone is still crushing it in September, because we're only at, I think, 6 or 7 sales for the month. It looks like we're probably going to maybe kiss 10 if we're lucky, which is a huge reduction from last month. Michael and Rylan, same for you guys, or are you guys rocking and rolling? Where are you at?
Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
As far as acquisitions, I'm averaging like 1 to 2 acquisitions a week right now.
Yeah.
And then I just put 3 listings up for sale last week. They're all pretty hot right now, but nothing's under contract to sell yet. And then just sending more mail. But yeah.
Have you sold anything in September so far, or has it just been acquisitions?
Just acquisitions, yeah.
So you're jonesing for a sale, huh?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine going 21 days without a sale. I think I would jump off a bridge or something. Just kidding. Michael, what about you?
I sold, put under contract was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 are not going to close because they have to go through probate. So just 2 are left. Yeah.
And then Mike, I know we've been talking both in here and slightly outside of this in terms of hiring. Have you put up any job listings?
I have not. No, I haven't. So I still, and I mean, I know we talked about something, and Angelica is taking on like a much larger role, but I still have not hired a phone person, which would be my next hire.
Okay. What about you, Rylan? You put up the job listings?
I need to sell some stuff first.
Okay. Well, again,
I was going through your modules. I actually told I kind of made a commitment to Rylan and Michael separately. Like I was on Sunday. By Sunday, I was going to have started that process, but I was slower to get through those part of the modules than I would like. So I have not, but I was.
Yeah, you got the ambition for it though. You got a goal for it, which I like. Here's the thing about it's just like the same thing with if sales are slow, should we be sending mail? The answer is yes. If sales are slow, should we still be putting up job listings to hire someone? The answer is yes. You don't necessarily have to hire someone yet. Like I understand if cash flow is tight, but I would still recommend getting the job listings up. Just start the process because there's a real delay. It takes time. It costs you $75 if you use onlinejobs.ph or whatever platform you use. There's tons that are free. You also want to get some reps in too, just because it's a whole different process. So I mean, for both of you guys, I would strongly encourage it. Even when times feel tough, you still want to be planting those seeds because it will come back around. And yeah, it always does. And I think it's so easy to make emotional decisions based off of what our business is doing, whether it's up or it's down. I think we should be a little more objective than that, or try to at least. So Chris, Rylan, Mike, you guys are all in the same camp. Let's get a job listing up before next Wednesday before our next call. And then if you guys have any feedback too about that module, since we just added the online jobs.ph module and really the whole hiring modules, if you guys have any feedback on that, reach out to me directly, because A, I would want to update those if there is any feedback, and B, if you guys need me to kind of hold your hand and walk you through that process, I'm more than happy to, just because it's a little more complex than some of the other stuff in the course. And then Mike and Cole, once you guys get to that point, that should be fully fleshed out, and we should have a pretty seamless system in terms of how to exactly do that. But Chris, Rylan, and Mike will be the guinea pigs in terms of using that content.
Perfect.
Sweet, guys. Well, anyone got anything else for me, or is that how we're looking?
Yeah, I did want to ask you about LandWatch. You were talking about that'd be something good for dispo. You can use it for comps if you want to on the front end. Is that how much is like the middle course that they don't list it? You have to like do a call with them. Is it like a couple $100 to get a land.com or what?
Yeah. So the reason they want me to do a call with them is because they're going to try to hard close you. They are the
Ask
most
Michael.
hardcore sales group ever. The truth is they're very negotiable. So everyone's pricing is going to be slightly different. It really just depends on how hard you push them. I think the rock bottom plan that you can get in on is about $400 now. When I signed up back in the day, I think I was in at like $275 for the same plan. They're always raising their prices though. That should give you like 5 listing slots, and then you can use their back end tools to do comps and whatnot. For where you're at right now, I wouldn't advise getting a land.com account. I would say do a few deals first, and then you can graduate to getting a land.com account. You also don't want us to start having that expense burning in the background until you really need it. The other thing is that it's all contract based. So they're not going to let you go month to month. It's 12-month commitments typically. So I would hold off on that for now. And maybe you can get lower than 400, but from everyone I've talked to, 400 is pretty standard. And then it scales all the way up to a few $1,000 a month. They have a bunch of plans in between. You can definitely run this business without land.com. Rylan's done about a dozen deals now and without land.com. Yeah.
Facebook, MLS. But
so you can
I just got my account, and it makes the world easier as far as sales.
It does.
Yeah.
But you did a ton of deals and big deals before you got to that point. Same thing for me. I think I went a whole year and sold 60 properties before I signed up. Especially if you're going after properties that are suitable for the MLS, which is typically anything like, I would say $20,000 and above, maybe $15,000 and above, depends on the market. The MLS will work magic for you, especially if you're listing competitively. If you're looking for more like owner finance sales, Facebook will work pretty well. And Facebook's obviously free. And then for the flat fee MLS, it's about $90 or so once we have that deal brokered with them. And it works like a charm. Really, it's great. You won't generate a ton of leads in terms of quantity, but the quality is top notch.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Well, if anyone has anything for me, just to remind y'all, Slack is where we'll do it. I'm going to drop a few recent wins in there. And if you guys have anything to share, you can put them in there as well. And then if you guys need any resources, I know some folks have said that the attachments still aren't working for the module. So if that continues to happen, drop a note in Slack, and Newman is the Slack moderator. So if you need anything, just tag him and he'll get that sent to you guys. Other than that, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the week. So I always appreciate seeing everyone's face on here and seeing new faces in here. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Keep kicking ass, guys. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Later.